Well, as the government shutdown continues, both Democrats and Republicans are trading blame. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said Saturday the U.S. Senate will work as long as it takes to try and end the impasse. But so far, progress doesn't seem likely. Democrats want a deal to protect dreamers, but Republicans, including the White House, say that they won't negotiate on DACA until the government reopens. Democratic Congressman Emanuel Cleaver from Missouri joins us now from Capitol Hill. Congressman, a lot of blame being thrown around both sides of the aisle, with Republicans calling this the Schumer shutdown, Democrats calling it the Trump shutdown. But is it possible to reach a deal at this point? What are you hearing?
Well, if we continue to throw nasty names around and attack each other, it makes it increasingly less likely that we will do something significant for the people of the country. Now, I represent a town called Independence, Missouri. In 1945, a U.S. Marshal gave his boss, Harry Truman, a little sign that said, "The buck stops here." And it's on his desk now in the Truman Library in Independence, Missouri. The President of the United States said in 2013, it all leads to the top. That's a direct quote. And so if we wanted to blame somebody, it would be the President. He said, blame me, because he said, let's blame Obama in 2013. That's not helpful. Here's what would be helpful. If you give me 6 Republicans and I'll take 6 Democrats, they don't even have to be in leadership. We go in the bathroom, and I think we can solve this matter. What we have right now are people in there fighting each other, trying to see who can better politicize this issue, and it's not helpful to the people in this country.
At some point, Congressman, there's got to be a resolution. Republicans have said that the DACA program, it doesn't expire until March. This isn't an emergency. We don't need to deal with it now. What's your response to that?
Well, look, number one, we are in our 3rd continuing resolution. That's killing not only the military, it's everybody else. Because every time we do a continuing resolution, it means we continue the previous year's funding level. Well, that doesn't factor in the cost of living. It's not indexed to anything. So every time we pass a continuing resolution, it means there's no funding increase for the military or anybody else. And so we need to figure out a way in which we can look at this as a time to put all of our energy into passing a budget. A budget. The most powerful nation on the planet has not had a budget in 3 years. That is insulting to the American public, and everybody ought to be embarrassed who raised their hands and took the oath of office.
Congressman, how long do you see this going?
Well, I just left the floor. We had a long, hour-long battle of words between each other, and I think that could probably go on for another couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks?
That it could go on that for a couple of weeks, unless somebody decides that it doesn't matter about blinking. Let's sit down and get this thing worked out. But you know, when people are making charges against the other, some of them not true, and then you think people are going to be happy to sit down and work out a deal. Yes, it could. Unfortunately, it could go on and on and on. Remember, it went on for 17 days the last time it was done, and the American public suffered. We're talking about $25 billion, a $25 billion hit to the U.S. economy. We can't stand that again. And whether Ryan and Pelosi and over here ought to sit down. But let me tell you one other, I think, very important thing. The House, over the last decade, has given more and more power away. When I listen to people say, we're waiting on the president to tell us what he will sign, that's ridiculous. Look, we have 3 branches of government. We are one. We're the legislative branch. If the House and the Senate pass legislation and send it to the president, I will guarantee, to use his terms and his style, I'll guarantee that he will sign it. And so we shouldn't continue to give our authority away to the executive branch. We have the capacity to pass legislation. The president can't introduce legislation. He can't debate over here. And we ought to pass legislation that we believe is helpful and then send it down to the White House.
You talked about the last shutdown under the Obama administration, 17 days, a month under the Clinton administration in 1995. Americans really haven't felt the brunt of this shutdown yet this weekend. What will you say to your constituents on Monday morning if this still continues?
Well, on Monday morning, I think people need to understand that if they were on the verge of getting their first Social Security check, that's going to be delayed. If you're already getting it, you're going to get it. But you know, most of the federal facilities and offices will be shut, and there are valuable services that the federal government offers that people want. In Kansas City, Missouri, for example, we have Honeywell. It's the prime contractor for the Atomic Energy Commission. That it means that the money that they need to be getting to do all of the research that they should do is not flowing that way. The constituents ought to put demands and quit, creating the tribalism. And I'm going to be on the Republican side. I'm going to be on the Democratic side. The public, the real American public, the people who are standing in the middle, ought to demand an end to this, and they can do it if the country stood up and not going to one side or the other and say this is just not going to work any further, and we want to see people who are going to sit down and work it out.
So, Congressman, do you see yourself and your colleagues working through the night tonight and Sunday as well?
Well, when I left the floor, Leader Pelosi had just made an offer and said, let's sit down. I know that that there are people who really want to do this, and I'm sure that Paul Ryan would like to settle it too, I believe. But Pelosi said that on the floor just less than an hour ago. So I'm hoping that will happen, and I hope that, you can't continue to try to insult Senator Schumer and then think he's going to smile and sit down and work with you, calling it the Schumer shutdown just because it's a nice alliteration. And so I don't know what's going on the Senate side. I don't think that there are meetings getting ready to take place here on the House side.
Congressman Emanuel Cleaver of Missouri, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.